Since I installed the Diode Dynamics light bar last night, I've been thinking about it some more, and it's been kind of bugging me that this trim piece that goes in between the bumper and kind of all the stuff down in behind the bumper, it kind of keeps it clean and so you're not seeing all that, is not designed to go back in. Obviously it's because it's a solid piece and the bracket would be in the way from Diode Dynamics. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to just mark it where the notches would need to be, and I'm gonna grab my Dremel and try to just Dremel a slot in there. It doesn't need to be real thick because the bracket is a pretty thin piece of metal, so I just probably need to notch it an eighth of an inch to a quarter at most, and then it should be able to slide right back in there and use the original clips that I took off to put it right back in. I guess if I ever ended up like taking the Diode Dynamics light bar off, I possibly need to pick up a new one of these, but I'm sure this piece of trim isn't very expensive. So the first thing I'm gonna need to do then is take the piece here and kind of slide it in and get it situated into place where I believe it needs to sit. It's gonna be kind of hard because I'm gonna have to try to eyeball it a little bit, but I grabbed a Sharpie. I'm gonna try to mark where I think the holes will line up and notch where the bracket is. So I'm gonna make a little line on there using the Sharpie. Fortunately, I think I'm gonna try to notch it about the thickness of this Sharpie head. So I think it's gonna work out okay, but I'm just gonna try to eyeball this as best as possible. I don't know if you can see my Sharpie mark right there. I did that on both sides, so now I'm gonna go ahead and take the Dremel and notch it out. I think I'm gonna need to notch it pretty far in, but I'll eyeball it and I'll probably do I'll cut a little bit of the way in and then test it and then continue on if I need to go further. Always wear eye protection when you're doing this kind of stuff. You wanna cover your eyes so that you don't get anything in them. And then I don't have a lot of experience with the Dremel, so I'm just gonna go slow. Start off slow, see how this starts to cut in to the plastic here. So I've got it partially slotted here. Once I get it figured out exactly where I need it to, get it dialed in, I'll have to kind of clean this out a little bit here. But I'm gonna test fit it real quick and just see if this piece starts to slide in. Okay, so I definitely need to notch it more, so I'm gonna start a second line and kind of create an actual gap in there. Okay, so you can see I've got a bigger gap in there now. Hopefully that's enough this time. And then like I said, I can just kind of file this up and clean it up, make sure there's no debris. I'll probably still have to go deeper in with the cut, but I'm just gonna test fit it again. All right, I think I'm on the right track. I just need to go a little deeper with this. So I'll continue on, and then I just gotta do the other side and we can go from there. Flip it over to the second side here. I got a pretty nice gap started here on this side. So I'm gonna just test fit again to make sure that my gaps on both sides are pretty close. And I'll just get an idea how much further I need to go in on this side. So while I'm working on notching that trim piece to fit in there, I decided I did need to take the light bars back off because I'm gonna need to take it off anyways to get this piece in anyways. And it'll make it easier for me to measure and see how deep I need to make those cuts with the light bars off anyways. So while I did that, the other thing that was bugging me is that the bolts holding the light bar in are shiny metal, chrome looking, and there's nothing else really on the Jeep that's chrome. So while it's off, I'm gonna go ahead and dust them with a little bit of black spray paint while I'm still working on trimming this panel. And that way when I put them back on, hopefully it won't nick the paint or anything, but it'll stay looking a little blacker and darker, so I think that'll look better. A little trick I've got is I put them through a piece of cardboard so that I can paint just the heads of them. I don't want to paint the threads on it. I just want the head. So I stuck them through. I'm gonna just dust them. Hopefully that'll be good enough, and it'll look a little better when I put everything back together. I've been going back and forth, and I've had to notch this a lot deeper than I thought I was going to have to on both sides and make it fairly wide because it is a tight fit. I have already removed the clips that I had put in with the washers. I popped those out just in case I do get this in there. I don't know that I'm gonna wanna have to fight it to get it back out. So this has been a little more challenging than I anticipated it being, just because of how tight of a fit this is here. And we'll see if it's gonna go. I'm not sure if this is even gonna work at all or what, but it's getting closer and closer. Ooh, I got this side in there. So, and that side. All right, so I did get it to finally work. So let me show you what we got here. So you can see the cover is back in. My hole is off just a touch, but I think the clip's still gonna grab just fine. And this side looks like it's pretty much dead on. And you almost don't even notice that it's notched to go around there. So I think that's gonna look a lot cleaner. And I'm really happy that I finally got it in. So all I gotta do is put my stock factory tabs back in up here and put these two tabs back in there. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, and because this trim piece is back in, I don't need that extra washer that we put on these clips originally, because that was just supposed to take up the gap in here from not having this trim piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and push this piece back down in there, and then I'll pop the head back in, and these should be good to go. So with this trim piece, it took a lot more trimming than I thought it was gonna need. I did definitely need it had to be at least 1/4 of an inch wide on both sides, and then pretty deep, almost all the way to the inside of it. But the end result is definitely worth it. Highly recommend doing this. And it just looks so much better in here. Even though with the light bar it covers some of it, you can still see down in there, see the wiring harnesses and a bunch of stuff that, at least with the plastic bumper, you don't really want to see in there. So let me give you another close-up shot of it. Just looks more factory and clean. One thing I didn't think about when putting this piece back in is that this is the area where I wanted to run the wires down through. But what's actually perfect is it's actually just got just enough gap here to get the harness plugged through. So it's going to work out even better than I could have imagined. Just like that, nice and easy. The bolts blend in now to the side. They don't stand out as much as when they were the chrome or stainless or whatever you want to call it. And then having this trim piece back in there. Now when you look down in there, you're not seeing all the nonsense, and it just looks that much cleaner. I think Diode Dynamics did a really nice job overall designing this. The only couple things that I thought that I could improve upon it with is adding that trim piece back in there, which they probably don't suggest it because it is modification and you got to cut up your piece. And also, if you've got the steel bumper, I'm not positive if you've got a little piece in there or not, and how it would work with aftermarket bumpers, things like that. But in my case, just this little bit of extra time, I probably spent a half an hour tinkering with it and going carefully, little by little by little. Makes a big difference. Only thing I would say that I would recommend to Diode Dynamics to improve upon this whole design is that I would really like to see them just include some black bolts on the end here rather than the included chrome or whatever you want to call them ones. The black just blends in with this whole beautiful design that much better.